Chance, Steel Island, and Winona, Maryland are small fishing villages situated on the Chesapeake Bay on the eastern shore of Maryland. Unless you come by boat, the only way to get here is to take Route 363 due west for 15 long miles. This route, otherwise known as Deal Island Road, is quite literally a rite of passage. The 15-mile drive feels as though you're traveling back in time to a simpler, quieter existence as it moves through some of the most beautiful and remote flatlands on the East Coast. The marshes that surround you on both sides are expansive, unique landscapes that smell of mildly rotting brush and embody all the muted colors of earth. They open up a vantage point to the sky in all its changing beauty. The area is known for its remote location and its nature, wildlife and aquaculture in particular. Birdwatching is spectacular. On any given day, you will spot a number of incredible species, including ospreys, eagles, hawks, egrets, great blue herons, cormorants, ducks, and geese, just to name a few. Fishing and local cuisine include the famous blue crab, Chesapeake oysters, and the prized rockfish. Deal Island claims the title Home of the Skipjack. These iconic wooden sailboats embody our unique regional pride for their historic place in the commercial fishing industry and their connection to the livelihood of the people that live here. Our sunsets are some of the most breathtaking you will ever see. As you drive down Deal Island Road, you will quickly notice the deterioration of old homes and churches, defunct sea shanties. The impression is one of a community just hanging on. Our history and culture in Chance, Deal Island, and Winona are rooted in family tradition. Generations of men and women who've lived their lives on the Chesapeake Bay, passing down their innate knowledge and love of the wind and the water to keep their way of life alive. Our family is one of these traditional families, and this is our story. Gordon and Albert Gladden are brothers who co-own the Chesapeake Bay skipjack Ida May. The Ida May was built in 1906 in Deep Creek, Virginia, and has been in the Gladden family since 1954. She was originally purchased by Gordon and Albert's father, Albert Gladden Sr., who owned 12 skipjacks in his lifetime. Skipjacks play a central role not only in the Gladden family history, but also in Maryland's cultural heritage. At one time, oystering was Maryland's second largest industry behind farming. Skipjacks are sailboats that dredge for oysters on the waters of the Chesapeake Bay. They are the last of their kind and the last commercial sailing fleet in the United States. They were built in boatyards by master shipbuilders, but just as frequently they were backyard carpentry projects of the watermen who owned and worked their decks. In the late 19th, early 20th century, during the heyday of the skipjack, Chance, Deal Island, and Winona were home to many dredge boats. Gordon Gladden remembers as a child that there were so many you could walk across Deal Island Harbor on them. However, today is very different. Due to disease, pollution, and overfishing, oysters are at a mere 1% of their original population, and with the disappearance of the oyster, skipjacks and watermen have mostly disappeared as well. Of the hundreds of skipjacks that once worked the bay, there are now about 30 left. And of those 30, there are even fewer who still dredge oysters. Most of the skipjacks were left to rot in marsh guts or burned at boatyards. It's a big responsibility to own a skipjack. Constant repair and dedication to the upkeep are necessary, and the Ida May is no exception.
Rebuilding of the Ida May, it was going to be just a little thing. Gordon decided that we had a little spot in our side that had a little rotten wood into it. So we got her up on the on the railway or on the bank and got her all blocked up. And we went down with our saws and our hammers and our wrecking bars, and we were just going to do a little place, I don't know, a couple feet square. Well, we took those two little pieces off, and the one to the right of that was bad. The one to the left of it was bad. One over top was bad. One underneath was bad. So it was growing.
And as we started tearing it out, we noticed that it was really more severe than we had thought it was going to be. So we just kept tearing out, and the next thing you know, we had torn off the whole bottom.
The centerboard,
We had torn off the keel,
the stern,
and the well.
and then the mast was the mast was bad, and the boom was bad.
We had torn off the chine on the whole boat. So that was the beginning of this major project that we undertook.
Both of us learned a lot doing this. I was a house carpenter, and Gordon was the insurance salesperson. So he became the painter, and I became the carpenter.
With no formal boat building experience, Gordon and Albert Gladden took upon themselves the monumental task of rebuilding the skipjack Ida May. This reconstruction falls within the long tradition of backyard boat building projects of many captains and owners that came before them.
I felt like my brother Albert could do almost anything. He's been a contractor all of his life. He's 77 years old now, so I just felt like Albert could do it, and I would be here to help him, and other people would come along. So I guess I was a little naive when we started.
When we got started into this repair job on that little piece on the side, 2 foot square or whatever it was, we didn't have any idea we'd have all this rotten wood. My. But it kept growing. It kept growing. When it's all sitting flat and painted good, you don't see all those. But when you start taking the pieces off of it, then you find out how rotten some of them are. That's why we had the tops and the bottoms, everything rotten.
This is fun, Tara. Had we have known in 2005 that this project was going to be as big as it turned out to be, we probably wouldn't have started it.
With so much rotten wood, so much work to be done, and so much expense, many wondered why these two brothers would take on such a difficult task.
Well, since our father owned 12 of these and just loved the skipjacks and boats in general, I just felt like it was important to continue that heritage on behalf of my father and Albert's father. It would bother me a lot if there wasn't a skipjack in the Gladden family. Skipjacks and sailboats and dredge boats in particular run in the family, and I just felt, and my brother did, Albert and I both felt, that we're Gladdens, and we should have a skipjack in our family history, and that's one of the reasons that we decided to keep it going. We felt that the future generation of Gladdens would enjoy having a skipjack and being able to do the things that Albert and I did as we were coming along. So that was it was in addition to the family thing and to the heritage thing. It's also a thing for the community, because at that time the Ida May was the only skipjack in the Deal Island Harbor, and I just couldn't imagine Deal Island not having a skipjack.
Gordon and Albert's father, Albert Gladden Sr., was known as Ebtide. He was born and raised in Chance, Maryland. As a young man, Ebtide worked on his father's skipjack, the Louise Miles.
So they went up the bay, and they went up there first of dredging season, November the 1st, and Daddy was just a boy in the 5th grade, and he decided, however, that that was the time that he was old enough to start working on the water. Well, the 1st of November in the particular year that he was there was very cold and rainy, and he didn't like it at all. And he said to my grandfather, "Papa, I think I made a mistake and I want to go back home." But Papa at that point couldn't get another crew member because everybody was crewing on other boats. So Papa said, "Well, Albert, you're here and I need you, and you can't go back home to go to school. You made that decision on your own, and you're here." So that's how Daddy got started working on the water.
Albert Sr. worked on the water with his father from the time he was a child until he was a young man.
Papa Gladden couldn't read or write, never went to school a day, but he was a great waterman, and Daddy learned a lot from him. But I think what Daddy really learned from him was that he didn't want to work on the water.
During the Depression, Albert Sr. moved to Baltimore with his wife Clara and young son Albert Jr., where he found a job at Bethlehem Steel.
And the first one I remember Daddy getting was the Dewey. And he bought it from Baltimore. The Sea Scouts from Baltimore had this. And when we'd come down from Baltimore, we lived there during the Second World War. We'd come down to visit on the Eastern Shore, and on the way back, he'd always have to go by there and look at this little boat. It was called a Dewey. The Dewey. It wasn't very big. It had a sort of a flat bottom on it. But that was his first venture into a boat owning. He had 12 of them during his time, and but this was the very first one they called it Dewey, and it was the smallest one of them. And then he went on and got different ones of them. No particular reason why he bought this one or that one. Whatever he saw that he thought he could buy. He never had a real good one though. He liked to buy them and fix them up.
Right there. Can you see?
Yeah, it's rotten.
Yeah, I'll do that. Well, I'll tell you what we can do. We can take this whole piece out.
Mm-hmm. What you're gonna have to do.
And then run it to that.
Isn't that something?
Huh?
I say, isn't that something that the heart is
well,
what's,
it's... What's right here or not? Can't tell.
Yeah, can't tell because it's the inside that's rotten, not the outside.
Funny, isn't it, how it rots.
Yeah. On the inside.
But now, at least,
Look pretty good.
maybe that's all right. Which is a help. Maybe yours over there is good. So if we have to replace this, now that's still not bad because we can replace it to here with that.
After World War II, Albert and his small family moved back to Chance. With the money he earned at Bethlehem Steel, he continued to buy boats.
Daddy moved back to Chance in 1945 and just continued to buy boats. He never saw a boat that he didn't love. He just loved skipjacks, and he kept buying them. And during his lifetime, he owned 12 of them. And of course, most of those boats were built at the turn of the century. So in 1945, they were already 45 to 50 years old. And most of the boats were built to last about that period of time. So the reason he bought them was that they were cheap and they needed repairs, and the owners didn't want to go through all of that. So Daddy bought them he'd use some of them for a few years and spend a little bit of money here and there putting new bottom planks on and sideboards and things like that. But once they got to the point where they were not salvageable, he would strip off the old gear, the winders and the davits and the metal things, and sometimes the mast and the boom, and he would salvage that for another boat that he had that needed some of those things. So when you have 12 skipjacks, there's always something that's breaking down. Can't be showing some of this tape to Mary Sue, by the way. She won't let me come anymore.
The Item A was Eptide's last purchase in 1954.
The Item A was the last skipjack that Daddy bought. It was at that time in the best shape, and consequently it was probably the last of the skipjacks. But it was also large enough. Most of the skipjacks that Daddy had after the Harry Alball and the maybe Mister, the rest of those skipjacks were smaller and didn't really fit going up the bay in the heavier waters, the rougher waters of the bay. But the Item A was big enough, so consequently the Item A was able to go up the bay and dredge, where the Dewey and the Virgie Dean and boats like that weren't large enough to do that. So I think the Item A stayed around because she was his last boat, but she was also a boat that was able to go up the bay. So when the oysters died in the Tangier Sound, she was able to go up the bay and work the rougher waters of the bay.
There was no one most difficult thing working on the Item A. Everything was difficult and hard. You'd think that you'd get through one difficult thing and you could sail for the rest? No, it was all difficult. All the lumber was heavy, big, cumbersome. The power tools we used were dangerous. The chemicals and the paint we used were toxic. Summer days were hot, humid, oppressive. Swarms of mosquitoes and gnats and flies would harass us. Some days it was pure torture and you wondered why we were doing this at all. But we have a very strong sense of family tradition and family obligation. And it was great to spend time with my uncle and my father and learn from them. You know, I might have to restore the skipjack sometime in the future, hopefully later than sooner. And so I learned a lot so that I can restore it when the time comes.
You feel like you got to know them better in the process? Understand them more, or?
Yeah, we developed a very strong bond working together, me and my uncle and father. And we're very proud of our accomplishments.
All right, you got her, David? You cutting something?
Yep.
All right.
Might not be right, but I'm cutting something.
I think it'll be right.
I'm good.
You
Okay.
satisfied?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, let her
Beautiful.
down, Cody.
Beautiful.
Over. I'm 70 years old. Don't be rushing me.
Here, why don't you let me do that?
I'm on, brother.
Let me get up.
I got it. Does it look like it needs it? It's got holes in it?
It's rot.
It's not right.
Semi He must have gotten that for 35 cents.
No, I had it. I got a whole bunch of those used screws that I thought I could use up there. We haven't worked a day with it yet, so I can't replace that blade.
Like I told them. Here we go. Tara, if we can get out of here, we're good.
In summer 2010, Tom Evans, a retired banker and amateur woodworker, joined the team rebuilding the Ida May. He provided assistance at a pivotal moment when the work was becoming overwhelming.
Light. Let there be light.
New rotten spots had been found, and most distressingly, the stem was bad.
All right, what else we got here?
Pack up and go home.
No, can't go home.
Too early?
Can't go home. Yeah, I can.
What time is it?
4:30.
Yeah, right.
People in the Deal Island community began to wonder whether the Gladden brothers would complete the project or whether the Ida May would end up on the burn pile of Scotts Cove Marina.
You gonna sail with us when we get her in?
I don't think you'll ever get her. I'm telling you the truth, I don't think you're going to get her now.
That's what you said 5 years ago.
I didn't think you were going to get her.
Hold on to that.
You think we're gonna make it Labor Day, Wes?
No,
Not this year?
no. No. No.
Wesley says no.
Not gonna make it for Labor Day.
Not this year, maybe next year.
Next year.
Next year.
Gordon said it might not be pretty, but we'll be there Labor Day. That's what he said. So we can do the cosmetic stuff later, as long as she'll hold water.
Oh, she'll hold water.
Or I mean,
How did you become part of the Ida May project? How did it start?
well, it started. You know, Gordon and I have been friends and business associates for years, and I told Gordon when I retired that I'd help out, you know, on the Ida May project, and so you know, we started that, and it's great American history, it's great Chesapeake Bay history, and it's great Gladden family history, and I enjoyed being a part of it. So it was fun. It was fun.
Tom's really strong.
You hear Geritol?
Geritol.
All right, he's getting stronger. More Geritol. So it was fun really recreating or rebuilding the item A. Even though some days when it was 105 degrees in the sun, that's where your mother's cold drinks and fresh fruit, came into play to keep us going.
Let's have our fruit. I'll be a lot stronger after I have my fruit.
It's really the teamwork, the camaraderie, if you will. You bring, Gordon brought a team together, and it was a very historic project. And you become like one, and you're dedicated really to getting the job done. There wasn't any quitters down there. We were just going to do whatever's necessary, to get the thing done. So it's a feeling of teamwork and the history behind it.
That's the most perfect cord Albert ever cut. Hey! All right, what are we doing?
Take him down.
Why is David standing up here? What do you do all this work? Fiberglass there.
Yeah. Guess somebody saw it was rotten and decided it is rotten too.
Is it?
Yep.
Well, we certainly wouldn't want to do all this work unless it was rotten, right?
In the summer of 2010, reporter Bryce Stump wrote an article for the Salisbury Daily Times that alerted the wider Delmarva community to the Gladden family's reconstruction of the item A. Frank Antes of Tyaskin read the article in the paper and decided to become a volunteer. He was a former industrial arts teacher and had vast knowledge about woodworking and construction. Bryce Stump had mentioned in his story that the Gladdens worked on the item A every Saturday at Scotts Cove Marina in Chance. So one Saturday morning, Frank showed up and joined the team.
My background in boat building, I really don't have any formal background other than a year ago I was picked to work with a professional boat builder for the Maryland Council of Arts. And I was picked as an apprentice to work with him for a year, and we constructed a 30-foot workboat up at the Cambridge Boat Works. How I got involved in the project with the item A was I saw the article in the Daily Times. And I had said to my wife about 15 or 20 years ago, before I die, I always want to work on a skipjack, just not work on it on the water, but to actually, restore one. So I saw the article in the Daily Times. I thought, this is my chance. So it's not in character for me to actually walk up and introduce myself to somebody, but I made the trek down to Deal Island and walked up to your dad and Albert. And I said, I'd like to give you guys a hand working on a skipjack. They both kind of looked at me like, what, crazy? So they gave me a little project to do, and I completed the project, and then after that was history.
Frank had a signature expression, "It is what it is," which soon became the motto for the project itself.
It is what it is.
You got enough
It is
bite
what it
to
is.
hold it.
It is what it is. It is what it is.
No, it is what it is. It is what it is. Looks better than it did.
Is it
We're going to hit this thing about as well as we're going to hit it. That's another day. That's another adventure. Oh yeah, baby. Yeah.
Like a hand in the glove.
Along with Tom Evans, Frank Antes became a driving force behind getting the boat launched by Labor Day 2011.
halfway down this knot.
All right, well, you see the break?
That's it. I see it on the outside.
What are we talking about here?
We're talking about a knot that's cracking here. Maybe you better.
What about it now?
Maybe you better get off, Albert. Do it from the up here.
How
All
how
I've got in
far
it.
we got to come in yet?
Is that one got one? Exactly where it did it. Exactly where it did it.
It's fruit break time. Fruit break.
The most challenging aspect of the item A was we had to replace the inner and outer stem.
Hey, Tara, how you doing?
I'm okay. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing today.
Getting heartburn.
We were dealing with big lumber at the time. Going to the sawmill, actually getting Beecham to rough cut the stuff and then having to fit it in. It just so happens that up at the boat works we had been restoring a boat called Jolly Dolphin, and the inner and outer stem had to be replaced there. So I had a good idea of what I was doing. But whenever you get into a project, some unknowns come up.
Fingers out.
Fingers out.
As the 2011 Deal Island Labor Day skipjack races drew ever closer, the team rebuilding the Item A had to work 2, then 3 days a week in order to complete the enormous amount of work that still needed to be done. The tasks that were still in need of completion were far beyond painting and polishing. They were major undertakings in themselves. They included the rudder, cabin, inner and outer stem, the log rail, centerboard, mast, and boom.
Now we had the last 6 months or the last year, we had a couple guys that came on and helped us, and I guess it's been a good thing for that, or we might still be there working. But they helped us do a lot of things. Frank was one of them, and Tom was the other one, and these guys helped us get the job done. Otherwise, we'd probably still be working on it.
After 6 long years of intense labor and incredible expense, on July 31st, 2011, the Gladden family launched the Item A. It was a joyous day for the Gladdens, Frank, Tom, and the community who gathered at Scotts Cove Marina to share in the celebration. Gordon and Albert Gladden cut the ceremonial ribbon together as Eldon Willing of Scotts Cove Marina slipped the Ida May off the railway and returned her to her home, the waters of the Chesapeake Bay. Although the Ida May was complete by summer 2011, she was still in need of a captain. After much deliberation, Gordon and Albert Gladden made a decision that spoke to both family tradition and community. They found their captain while looking back in history to ebb tide's first boat, the Dewey.
He had saved up enough money that he bought the Dewey and sent her down to Dew Island and the Chance and hired his first captain. And his first captain was a fellow named John Price. Well, John Price was a young fellow, and he was a real hustler, could do anything mechanically and boat-wise. And John made him a good captain and was the captain of the Dewey for a long time. So who better to serve as the captain of the Ida May now than John Price's son, John Price Jr.
Opportunity to come to sail here on the Ida May, and I was tickled right to death, to get the opportunity, because like I say, I knew my father had sailed on the first one that ebb tide had had, your grandfather, and for me to be on the last boat that he owned, it was an honor, and I have the passion, and to me that's what it takes on one of these things. You got to have a passion for it, and I've been on I've delivered a lot of these new fiberglass sailboats to Florida and all over the East Coast, and just none of them. It's just not graceful and all like these skipjacks are. And like I say, I have a passion for that. I'm just thankful for the opportunity that your dad had given me to be able to sail this one. Had a real great time this year. First race, Labor Day, wasn't so good with our sails and all, but we had a problem. But we're working kinks out of her, and we had a great time. Thanks to Stoney, we borrowed his jib and we went to Cambridge and had a real good time in Cambridge. The boat sailed real nice. Got a few minor things we need to do to her, but I believe we can take care of that this spring. And I look forward to this coming year, to sailing on her.
Now that the Gladden brothers have restored the Ida May, they hope her legacy can endure for generations to come.
We got it back and got it back in a good shape. We think it's real good shape. I think it's excellent for a house start. We're rebuilding a boat. But and Gordon and the insurance executive being a painter and a carpenter. So that's basically what we're doing. It's keeping the skipjack alive because they're not building anymore. We're just fixing the old ones up and trying to preserve them. So we did our job on that part of it. So I hope we don't have any more to do. It should last a little while with all the new wood we put in it. I'd like to see the item A put to some kind of a use, to use it as a living classroom. I would like to see that happen because it would keep it up and keep it out, and people would get to see it. I'd like to see it being used for anything worthwhile rather than just 1 day or 2 days a year, that we actually use it on a skipjack race.
In the long run, I think it's problematic as to what's going to happen to oyster dredging in the Tangier Sound and the Chesapeake Bay. And I think the future is actually going to be in tourism. I think these boats will be used to take out people and let them experience what it was like working on a skipjack 100 years ago. So, you know, this skipjack is over 100 years old, and I foresee it going into the future with a with a possibility of taking out paying customers, and hopefully they will enjoy it well enough that they'll pay enough to make it worthwhile, and at least keep the expenses up so that we can keep the boat from going in decline like it had been in the last few years.
It would be nice to have something that you've been around all your life, and that's about what it is. We've been around it all our life. And our father, that was his life.
Our story of family tradition, preservation, and dedication to the Maryland skipjack is just one of many in the Deal Island Chance community. Without the commitment of the families that have stewarded these boats for generations, they surely would have perished long ago, along with the historical and cultural significance they carry in their wooden decks and leg of mutton sails. This film is dedicated to all the families who have kept and continue to keep these beautiful, elegant vessels alive on the Chesapeake Bay.